Hi, everybody. It's been a long time, hasn't it? Well, here we are at season 8 of this season number 5. It's all about um, natural dyed items, natural dyeing in and of itself. And today we're going to be talking about taking care of your naturally dyed textiles. But before we get there, here's what's happening on the farm. I'm recording this mid December. And so we just this week had our first dusting of snow, but it was less than an inch. So I saw on the news that our area is in a snow drought. We haven't had an inch or more for like 658 days or something like that. So like almost 2 years since we've had any appreciable snow. They say it's going to be snowy this year, so we'll see. But it has been kind of downright cold and a little bit rainy too. The chickens are in their full molt, and so even though we have 18 chickens, I think we're getting one, maybe two eggs a day. That's it. So in this time of the year, older chickens lose their feathers, or a lot of them. And so all of their energy goes into refashioning those feathers for themselves. And so there isn't enough energy left over to lay eggs. So we'll get maybe one egg a week out of each of them, that kind of thing. Maybe once every 2 weeks, something like that. It's hard to tell who's laying and who isn't. About 12 of those that we have right now are brand new chickens, and they have not started laying yet. They're not molting because they're brand new chickens. So I think they're probably maybe 6 to 7 months old. And so they are just gearing up to start their egg production. And that will probably happen in the spring, maybe late winter. Hopefully, maybe in February they'll start going. We'll see. That's kind of what's happening. The sheep are out there eating, and even though we put hay out for them, they would much rather eat the dry grass in the field and then some of the green grass that's coming up. Since we have had some rain, there is some green grass for them also to eat, but they're more interested in that than any old hay. And of course, every time we go down there, they're really interested in having some grain too. And so we give them treats every once in a while because we're just, they're kind of like pets. They're our fiber family pets. So everything is all good here, and we're just hunkering down and waiting for winter to really begin in about a week or two. So it has been a minute since I was on the podcast. I think it was June. It was before we went on our trip, and we had a great conversation with Amy Defoe about dyeing while traveling, among other things. It's a really great interview. If you have not listened to it, you should. And if you're not someone who really likes to listen to a podcast, you can also see these on our YouTube channel. So we've talked about the importance of natural dyes, why it's important to use them now, why it's important to wean ourselves off of big fashion, just for the sake of our planet and climate control and all of that. Climate beneficial clothing right now is very important. It's a small step that we can take that we can really make an impact on. I've been talking about natural dyes, how they can be purchased, or they can be grown, or they can be foraged. And each and every episode, I've also highlighted one natural dye that I've used that's very fun. And I've also highlighted one of our farm yarns that you can use to do natural dyes with. And we also talked about planting a dye garden, which is a perfect time to be doing that in December and January, thinking about getting your seeds, thinking about what colors you want to plant, what plants you want to try, what your conditions are. Do you need to plant them in a pot because you live in an apartment or have a very small yard? Or do you have a bigger piece where you can plant a whole row of something? And then it's time to dream and kind of plan that out. And there's one episode about building your own dye library. Some of my favorite natural dye books that will lead you in your own practice if you are so inclined. So let's talk about the benefits of buying naturally dyed textiles. We talked about them being climate beneficial. A lot of this is because they can be sourced locally. That's what we're trying to do with the Fiber Shed, is to make to have people buy their clothing more local as they can get. At this point, the textile industry in America is really, really broken. But there are still a lot of companies that are selling, made in America, which might be the best that you can get if you're not a maker. If you're a maker, of course, you can get yarn from your local fiber farmer. You can buy the natural dyes from a local nursery. So it can be a lower carbon footprint. Even if it's made somewhere in America, it's going to be a lesser footprint than if it was made in India or China. A lot of naturally dyed textiles are coming from places that are fair trading companies. So that means that they're paying a living wage to the people who are making the clothing or dyeing the clothing or weaving the cloth. So that's fair trading. And there's much less water pollution. There's still a little bit, because there's always going to be runoff of the mordants that people use, which tends to be an aluminum salt. But it's not as dangerous as many of the other chemical dyes that are being used to make, bright neon green and yellow and pink clothing. And where you see the rivers running with those colors of foam over the top. It's just horrible. Natural dyes can be composted as well. And the naturally dyed textiles, assuming that they're also natural fibers, you can wear them until they become rags, then use them as rags, and then finally you can also put them in your compost pile, and where the carbon and nitrogen will go back into the soil from where it came. Also, naturally dyed textiles, many of the colors, they just tend to work with each other. They have a more dusky appearance, and so they tend to match each other and make beautifully striped garments. Now, there are concerns about naturally dyed textiles, and we've talked about some of these before. So they may not be light fast, and they may not be wash fast. And light fast means that they will keep their vibrant color even when exposed to bright sunlight over a great period of time. And wash fast means that they will not fade in the wash. And many of our commercial products are also not light fast or wash fast. You can see that I have a window in my closet, and so there are some clothes that have kind of bleached at the top, where at the top of the hanger, because the sunlight has gotten through. The other concern about naturally dyed textiles is that some of the wood-based dyes are harvested in critical areas like the rainforest. So for instance, logwood, kutch, Brazil wood, sapin wood, many of these wood-based dyes are harvested in rainforests. Now, many of the countries now are, really working to have responsible harvesting. I know there's some mango trees that are being harvested. Only a small amount of them can be harvested, and it's very tightly controlled so that this grove of these mangroves is not decimated, because we love the color. So how can you care for your naturally dyed textiles? That's really what I wanted to talk about today. Because they, just like I said, just like with commercial fabrics, if they are left out in the sunlight, they are going to fade. If they're washed repeatedly, there's going to be some fading there as well. So the best thing you can do is to store your textiles away from the light, in a closet, in a windowless closet. Folding them perhaps, making sure if they are folded or hung that you change them around every once in a while so that they aren't always facing the same way, they aren't always folded in the same way, and you can reduce the wear lines of any of your folded items as well. You can air out your items rather than washing them after every wearing. They used to do this all the time. And in fact, sunlight does, even though being in sunlight for extended periods of time is going to cause some fading, right? But it also, airing out in fresh air will take away many of the offending odors. Also, avoid underarm stains by choosing deodorants or antiperspirants that don't contain aluminum. That's the problem, that the aluminum in there somehow bonds to the proteins that are in your sweat, and that's what causes those yellow underarm stains. So they have many, I looked on Amazon, there are many non-aluminum deodorants and antiperspirants out there. So that's my suggestion and that works for whether you are talking about wearing commercial items or naturally dyed ones as well. So how should you launder your naturally dyed textiles? Well, number one, like I was saying, launder them less often, like every 3 or 4 wearings. If it's a sweater that's, like that you're not wearing right next to your skin, that you're wearing with a turtleneck or something like that, you can wash it once a season. You can choose either way. Wash at the end of winter when you're done wearing it and then put it away, or you can wash it at the beginning of the cold season in order to prepare. Probably the best way to do it is at the end of winter, because again, moths and that kind of thing, they're also attracted to sweat. So it's probably best to do it at the end of the cold season. If you have any stains, you're going to want to spot treat those, and there's many ways that you can do that with, like, baking sodas and even like soda water brings out some things, and anything that's not, of course, not a bleach cleaner. Don't put one of those Clorox pens on it, or you are going to make it's going to lose the color of whatever the natural dye was. When you do launder them in cold water and on a gentle cycle, or hand wash them. For sure, hand wash any knitwear, especially if it's yours. You've hand knit it. You know this, guys. You want to hand wash it with gentle detergent. Squeeze out the excess water and lay it out flat to dry. And be sure that you pay attention to wherever the care tags on the textiles that you purchase from a commercial source. They're the ones that best know the way to launder those items. So if they're telling you, to only hand wash or only dry clean, or, whatever their washing instructions are, it's best to follow those because they know how that item was made. Now, there is going to be inevitable fading, just like we've said. Even our commercially dyed clothes fade over time. And when naturally dyed textiles fade, they can still be beautiful as they age, because they take on a kind of a lighter color that's going to blend in more wonderfully than like a commercially neon green that then has a very, like a stripe of a little lighter green. That's going to stand out more on a commercial fabric, rather than if it's already naturally dyed, it's already kind of a dusky. Maybe if it was artisan dyed by you or someone else, it also has some variation in it already. And so I think we need to love our textiles, especially our naturally dyed textiles, as they age. They're beautiful as they age, and we need to learn to love those colors as well. Now, because the textiles usually are going to be also natural fibers, you can over dye them to restore the original color or even change the color a little bit. You could take something that was, say, a creamy brown, and let's say you dip it into an indigo bath, and so you can change it into like a light olive green that way. So you can change things as they age and get to a point where it's like, I really want to refresh this. I love this shirt. I love this dress, but I want it to be a little bit more refreshed. So over dye it. And if you don't dye, well, you can find a local dyer and see if they'll do some custom work for you. There is a place in Pennsylvania, Green Matters, and they will re-dye your clothes. In fact, one of their Christmas ideas for this year is to it's like a gift certificate. So you can give this certificate to someone, or you can keep it yourself, and that entitles you to have a piece of clothing dyed by them at some time during the year, which I think is such a cool idea. They have all the big industrial equipment that is usually used for commercial dyes, but they are using it for with natural dyes, and their items are just beautiful. You can find out about them on the web. It's greenmatters.com. And then I think we do kind of need to change our mindset. When we're buying less and trying to buy local and trying to buy sustainable, when we're trying to buy from reputable companies, those clothes are going to cost more. That's just the way it is. If you're paying for fair trade, it's going to cost more than paying for clothes made in a sweatshop. That's just inevitable. But they will last longer. So looking for classic styles that are going to last you years and years, that you can wear for a long time or pass them down to family members, is what is going to really work with those higher priced items. And as they age, they're going to acquire kind of like a patina. They're going to become pieces that are part of your well-loved wardrobe. And they're going to become more comfortable. They're going to become softer. Just think about a linen that comes brand new. It's going to be very, very crunchy almost. It's very stiff. But as you wear it, it becomes softer and softer and more comfortable and more lived in, and it becomes, just a piece that you end up loving forever. So the change in mindset comes when we value the age and the patina and the changes that happen to our textiles over time. And they will become part of what we think of as our capsule wardrobe or our classic wardrobe, or the things that we consistently pick to wear to show our style. So this episode's natural dye plants are acorns, and I picked this because you can still forage these in your own yard or at a local park. We still have them all over the driveway or along the sides of the driveway. And these are great little things because they contain tannins. So you do not have to mordant the textiles before dyeing. The tannins in the acorns are the mordant. So it becomes more of a one-step process. The color it's a lovely soft caramel beige color. And you will use the tea method that we've talked about before. You cover them with water, let them sit for a day or maybe more before you heat them. And you can continue to extract the dye from them. As they soften, you can break them apart, you can hammer them, or maybe they just will disintegrate in your hands depending on how long you've kept them and heated them well. And from that lovely caramely color, you can get grays and blacks. So if you put the textile in an iron afterbath, and you just dip it in that afterbath to achieve the color that you want. You just have to be careful with anything that's wool, because iron will degrade that fiber. So just be careful with that. Don't use anything that's Don't try to get the blackest blacks that you can get on wool, because that probably will not last very long. And like I said, it degrades the fiber. And be sure that when you're done, that you are also rinsing it out as much as you can to get any of the excess iron out of it. And our farm yarn for this time is our PolyPay Wild Light. So we talked about PolyPay before in episode 4, and basically this is a yarn that the fleeces come from a farm in Virginia. PolyPay is a breed of sheep. They are bred because they're an all-purpose sheep, so that means that they are good for their fiber as well as for meat. And the farm that I bought these fleeces from was not interested in the wool, so I was able to get it at a very reasonable price, which is good. So this lighter PolyPay, it is between a light fingering, a heavy fingering, and a light sport weight. Right now I'm knitting socks with it, and I'm using size 1 needles. That's what I needed to do to get to a nice durable sock kind of fabric. You can use larger needles if you're going to want to make a less dense fabric that is not going to be used for socks and shoes. If it's undyed, or some of what we have is also locally dyed, then they qualify for as a certified fiber shed product. So that's always great. Each skein has 340 yards. And at this time, all the skeins that I have are naturally dyed. If you're watching this on YouTube, the picture that I have is a logwood and Osage very variegated yarn that I call Iris. It's really pretty. And if you make that into socks, it will be it will have some pooling in it and some light striping. So until next time, I wish you all happy holidays and a really great new year, and happy making.